Come to order. Fran, would you conduct a roll call, please?
Sure. Council members Ray Walt.
Here.
Fitzgerald.
Present.
Nafig.
Present.
Shahadi.
Present.
Bynum.
Present.
Phillips.
Present.
Spread. 6 present, 1 absent, Your Honor.
Very good, Fran. Folks, would you rise and join me in our Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you and welcome, everyone. At this time, if there is anyone in council chambers that has an item or an issue they'd like to discuss with council that is not included in tonight's agenda, now would be the time to come to the podium. Very good, we'll move on with item 5, consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, which concludes item 6A, items 8A through C, the filing of communications, which is 12A through D, and tonight's bills totaling $656,628.25?
So move, Your Honor.
Bob, and a second?
Second.
Second, Scott. Bob and Scott, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Okay, moving on down to item 10 from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution approving the final plat for the Finley subdivision. The property owners have combined a preliminary and/or final plat for this subdivision. This 5.503 one-lot subdivision is zoned A1, or agriculture, within unincorporated Muscatine County. The intent is to split the house and the buildings located within the proposed subdivision from the adjoining farm ground and sold. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommends the approval of this request. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Phil?
Second.
Second, Mike. Any discussion? And roll call beginning with Phil.
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jeanette?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Osama?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
And that carries 6-0. Now, item 11 from the city administrator. Presented for city council's consideration is a resolution setting a public hearing for the West Hill Area Sanitary and Storm Sewer Separation Project, or Phase 3. It is staff's recommendation a public hearing be held concerning the third phase of the project. The public hearing will be held Thursday, February 5th, 2015 at 7 p.m. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Osama?
Second, Your Honor.
Second. Was that you, Phil?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion? Beginning with Osama.
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Jeanette?
Aye.
And Bob?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Item B, presented for city council's consideration is a request to approve the Iowa Department of Natural Resources consent order for the Muscatine County landfill. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
I'll give that to Jeanette. Second?
Second.
Second, Scott. Well, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Item C, presented for city council's consideration is a request to approve the purchase of a pickup truck for park maintenance. 7 bids were received. Staff is recommending the purchase of a 2015 GMC pickup truck from Krieger Motor Company in the amount of $19,851.17. There is $22,000 budgeted for this purchase. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So move, Your Honor.
Bob?
Second, Your Honor.
Second,
Phil.
Bill, okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Item D, Presented for city council's consideration is a request to approve the purchase of a new right-of-way arm mower and a new tractor for park maintenance. 3 bids were received for each piece of equipment. It is staff's recommendation that city council approve the purchase of a tractor from Canoe Implement of DeWitt, Iowa, in the amount of $33,297.70, and the purchase of a right-of-way arm mower from Diamond Mowers of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, in the amount of $17,712. The total price for both pieces of equipment is $51,009.70. There is $49,000 budgeted for the purchase of this equipment. The arm mower and tractor is $2,009.70 over budget and is funded from the Rural Tax Use Fund. However, the recent zero-turn mower purchased and proposed truck purchase were under budget by $3,396. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Scott,
Question.
Second, Your Honor.
second Phil. Any discussion?
What brand is the tractor?
That's what I was gonna ask.
They sell U.S. brands and
The tractor that was the lowest bid is a Kubota tractor.
Okay.
How are you had a set of specs drawn up?
Yeah, yes, we did.
And the other, because that same company sells Case, IH.
Correct.
Some other things, I looked at it. Did those other brands, could they meet the specs?
Yes, we had 3 good, clean bids that all met specs. And the Kunau implement with the Kubota tractor was the lowest bid.
But the other bids were what brands?
One was a John Deere and another one was a Kubota from another Kubota dealer.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Randy, while you're up there, how many miles do we do right away? Mowing?
I'm not sure, Osama. The
We have
mower goes out a couple of times a week to mow, probably 15 hours a week it mows.
We have a list of all the city right-of-way maintained by the
I'm
city. We
just
can
curious to
send.
know how many miles. It
I don't know.
was a few years back, we took away.
About 10 miles.
Yeah.
Anyone else, council?
He's worked on it.
Very good, thanks, Randy.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussions?
He really does.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Item E, presented for city council's consideration is a request from the fire department to submit an application for a staffing for adequate fire and emergency response, or SAFER, grant through the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, Assistance to Firefighters Grant, AFG. If awarded, the grant would allow for the hiring of 4 firefighters and would pay 100% of the salary and benefits for a 2-year period with a 0 match and cost share to the city. At the end of the grant period, the city would need to decide whether or not to keep all or some of the 4 firefighters. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Phil?
Second.
And a second, Jeanette. Any discussion?
Yeah, I had a, no, you're probably gonna ask the same.
Well, I
thing.
was just going to ask Greg if he could, I mean, I think most of the council realize how this one is different than the previous
Certainly.
Grants, and I think it's important that the public understands the distinction.
For both the past SAFER grants and with the COPS grant, we did have, for example, with this last COPS grant, the 4th year was wholly city funded, and we've been budgeting annually to cover that additional cost. With the previous SAFER grant, there was also a city matching grant or a year's worth of maintaining those officers. This new grant does not have that requirement. Burlington received this grant a year or 2 ago as well. And it's got a pretty rapid turnaround starting here in February, and we wanted to get it back to before council pretty quickly. But again, it's 100% funded. Salary and benefits, overtime is not included in that, but we expect this to actually have a positive impact on overtime. Part of this plan is for the fire department to develop metrics that we will be measuring, including overtime, and several other components so that we can properly evaluate the addition of these 4 firefighters over the next 2 years. To be very clear and upfront with folks, there's no commitment to keep these 4 firefighters on at the end of that period. Of course, if we do have an opening, we could certainly, they can certainly apply for that opening. But there is no commitment or guarantee that at the end of the 2-year period that the firefighters will be maintained.
Are we required to have 4 in the grant?
We are not required to have 4. One would level out the shifts, and 4 adds an additional firefighter per shift. It was the fire chief's recommendation that we go with 4 over the 1. We had a discussion internally on the topic. Multiple reasons. The ability to meet the grant requirements or to be successful in the grant application. Chief felt when doing a review of the recent applications that this grant application would be more successful with 4. We talked about doing just 1 and its impact on the department versus 4. Given that this is wholly funded at 100%, it seemed reasonable to go along with the chief's recommendation to go for 4, but to be clear, that we're gonna measure this 2-year period and make sure that and see its impact on the department: overtime, sick leave, health related to on the job workers' comp and other health related issues that we have as well.
So you've got 1 battalion that's 1 man short.
We have 1 shift that's 1 man
Yeah.
short, yes.
90%, Chief, about 90% of your calls are ambulance, is that correct? 89%. Maybe it's time to look at other job categories, because that's where the runs are going, and might not need to have all fire. I know everybody's cross-trained now, that's wonderful. I don't know if we can afford that in the future. It's a terrible problem with firefighters' retirement contributions that we have to make, and adding 4 new firefighters when we need 1. I'm hard pressed to think that's a good idea. We just don't have the money. I mean, you don't think this is free, do you?
It's grant money that's available that's going to be distributed.
Yeah, it's a free lunch. I just wonder if with a little creative thinking, you can come up with a whole new category, whole new position to have EMS person or a EMT, whatever the appropriate designation, to do help just on fire calls. Excuse me, just on ambulance calls.
We've actually started to have that discussion, and one of the topics that we brought up was related to out-of-town transfers. 25% of their calls are out-of-town
Yep.
transfers. And it doesn't make sense to have a different category of person or individual or employee in that position.
Why?
I'm sorry?
Say it doesn't?
No. I'm saying, I'm asking the question,
Oh.
whether or not it does or doesn't make sense to have a different category that's not covered by the 411 system. And that is something that we're going to keep discussing. The grant doesn't allow for it. The grant is for firefighter position as described.
And we would be hiring what we typically hire and only hire is paramedic level.
Yes.
This is approved. When is the starting date for these 4 fire?
Oh, was it August?
Okay. We had talked about turnout gear, and we
Yes.
heard the response about that. Is there any other costs that are associated with hiring 4 new people and bringing them on for 2 years that we haven't thought about, or at least
That we have to absorb.
we haven't thought about that we have to absorb? Or is it are all costs paid, including their turnout gear?
What's paid with the grant is salary and benefits, so basically the payroll expenses. The hiring expenses for physicals, station uniforms, and the bunker gear, or the fire gear that they wear, is not covered by the grant. So we do purchase 4 new sets of bunker gear. And so what we would end up doing if we hired 4 is that we would just put those 4 people in the top of the rotation and move everybody back. So we are able to absorb the entry-level cost to get them on board of what's not covered by the grant.
Now, you're saying salary and benefits are covered. Does that include the 411 contribution?
Yes,
Okay.
it just,
All
not
benefits.
overtime. So salary, benefits, payroll expenses are covered, just not the overtime.
Chief, does that cover workman's comp insurance?
Covers everything that would be on the payroll expenses, so yes.
Is that on the?
Yes, that's covered.
That's a payroll item?
Well, Nancy's spreadsheet,
No.
you'll see that
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
that it covers the entire employee cost, and all costs associated with hiring the employee are covered in the grant.
Including workman's comp? Is that right,
Everything
Nancy?
other than overtime. Oh, the police and fire medical?
Not
Oh,
workman's
the
comp.
police,
They don't.
oh,
they
that's
don't-
what you're.
The work comp is covered in the pension system.
How do they get paid when they get injured?
It's a different type of system.
411 system.
The 411 system is covered, yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
And kind of to repeat, Greg, at the end of this period, we'll have some analytics to look at. It's not going to be, well, we think this is working out pretty good, and something general that we can't really clearly evaluate, correct?
Yes.
And this is something that we constantly look at, is if we hire 2, can we eliminate or potentially reduce significantly the overtime costs? And it's, you're guessing. Well, at this point, somebody else is gonna provide us with 4 employees that we can literally try this and see whether it's going to reduce our overtime costs by adding how many staff members, so.
This will give us actual data at the end of the 2-year period at no cost to the
Right,
city.
right, okay.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know if this is a question I should address you or Greg, but could we split this resolution into 2? One of them saying, yes, we would submit a request for 1 firefighter, and the other one, we would submit a request for 4 firefighters.
Greg?
You want to submit 2 applications?
You can only submit one.
We can only submit one application.
Do you have an opportunity when you're awarded the grant to pick whether you want 1 or 4, or you have to do that on the initial paperwork?
I don't have that answer. I know I've talked to Burlington and I've talked to Clinton, and they had some discussions and then some search on the internet. I believe there may be some negotiation, but that would be part of the award packet discussion. So I don't have a clear answer for that. My recommendation is 4.
Yeah, okay. And I think I agree with you on that also, so.
And I
Do
agree,
you, please,
ladies first.
beauty before age, please.
And I agree that we really need the personnel. My husband was in the emergency room, and he had to wait 5 hours for an ambulance to come from L&M to take him for surgery. So we really need it.
Thank you.
Anyone else, Council?
I have.
One other question, Chief. I guess there's really no way to estimate retirements over the next couple of years either, right?
We do have 1 confirmed retirement in this 2-year period. So historically, you may have someone go out on disability, you may have someone get a job in another city. So, but again, we can't guarantee that. We just know that we do have 1 planned retirement that they have to retire in October of 16. They can't stay any longer. So we do know that there will be 1 position there.
We try and guesstimate that during the budget process, or estimate it based on what we know. They're not required to tell us, obviously, when they're going to retire, but we do try and provide an estimate for budget purposes and costs related to those retirements.
So are these, I know the school district hires people that when they're grant funded, if the grant money runs out, they know they're gone. Are these truly full-time City of Muscatine employees? And then at the end of the 2 years, we, in essence, if we decide we don't want to continue, we terminate them?
Yes.
It's one, no.
What does it cost us per year for the retirement contribution per person, roughly?
Is it 32% or?
of their base salary?
Of their salary.
Bob?
Just want to emphasize to you, I was in that position on October 20th, Chief, that I had to lay in the emergency room a little bit longer because I had to go to Iowa City because there wasn't an adequate surgeon on staff to be able to handle my black bowel, so they put me in Iowa City. It was a long, bumpy ride, but it could have been a lot less if there was fully staffed. And I think you guys do a fantastic job at what you do, either as an EMT or as a firefighter. And if I'm not mistaken, that you just came from a possible fire just a few minutes ago.
We have the whole department out of fire right now.
So from myself and my family, I want to say thank you for the work that you and your staff has done and will be doing in the future.
Thank you.
You feeling better about
One
it?
Yes.
last question.
Bill, go ahead.
How many calls do you have that you're pulling in somebody on overtime now? Have a number?
Just the working structure fires because we don't have enough people on board.
Well,
Otherwise, it's the out-of-town transfers because that's the same as 2 of your staff members leaving the city limits for 3 to 5 hours.
Yeah. So the number and most ambulance calls, is it just the out-of-town that you call people in to do?
We only call in people when we hit the minimum manning of 9. So the 2 shifts that have 12 and the 1 shift that has 11, if the staffing in the city limits gets below 9, then we call back. Otherwise, if we have 11, and if we have an out-of-town transfer and they're gone for 3 to 4 hours, 2 people go in the ambulance out of town. That gets us down to 9. We don't call in any overtime. So 9 is the magic number to provide services in the city
So
limits.
what percentage of the time does that happen?
For overtime, well, we average 3.3 out-of-town transfers a day. So, I mean, we're basically relying on off-duty firefighters to come in and work on their off days to take the out-of-town ambulance transfers. So they're in on overtime every day.
Okay.
Chief, I think everybody recognizes the excellence of your department and your people and the individuals. It's just dollars and cents. I would be happy to go with 2 people, the one opening and the person that pick up the slack for the retiree that's coming up, but not 4.
Mike, I think the consensus from council is for 4.
Well, we've got two of the slots almost spoken for as we speak, and the other 2, there's no obligation as I see it.
Okay.
Anything else, council? Okay, we've had discussion, so this is a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 5, I believe, to 1. Item F, presented for city council's consideration, is a request from the Housing Department to submit a grant application to the United Way for the after-school program. MMHA staff is completing the United Way application for fiscal year 2016 and is requesting $24,800 to support the after-school program. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Bill, a second?
Second.
Second, Scott. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries 6-0. Okay, item G, council, this is not an action item tonight, but it's a presentation from our Community Development Director, Dave Gobin.
Right.
And it has to do with the department's rental housing program and suggested code changes and plans. And welcome to the podium, Dave.
Thank you, Mayor.
Dave's turning things on. This is, Dave's been taking a look at the department during the budget process. Tonight's main focus is on the fee structure going forward. We wanted to give you some time to digest the information before we get into the budget process. As Mayor noted, there's no action tonight, but wanted to give you a little extra time before going into the budget process to review this information.
Look a little more closer. Last time I was up here, I humped over this thing. I forgot I could move it. Anyway, see if this thing works. I have, the budget season happens to be a good time to reevaluate your current services and such for the city. And one of the things we do in the Community Development Department is manage the rental program, rental housing program throughout the city, except for what's done by the Housing Department. And I'll get into that as we talk about it. There. Let's see if I can. The first thing I'd like to mention to you is our current codes, and it basically is two general provisions in the code, and that deal with rental properties or rental housing. And I thought what I'd do is just highlight what those two are. I did not put the whole thing on here, but the two paragraphs that deal with it. The first thing gives you the intent and the baseline and the stake in the ground, saying that this is what we're doing this for. I put it in yellow on the screen. The second thing, the second paragraph, it highlights the area of which properties are exempt from the inspection fees currently. And that's based off of the existing code. Well, that's what we're working with right now. We would like to address some code changes that, in summary, as we suggest them, is part of the recodification process to augment the existing code by changing a few things and giving us the amount of flexibility we need to make programmatic adjustments in the future, not just what I'm suggesting we do up front, but how we kind of roll this out or launch certain things in the program going forward. We are, the main thing is we're looking to try to change from going to from an inspection system that's done once every 3 years to an annual license per unit. There's a lot of reasons for doing that, but the highlighted reasons is that one of the big reasons is that we can revoke a license. But what we have now is a certificate of structural compliance. We can't revoke those once issued. In between those 2 years that are not inspected, we want to implement the ability for the property owner to do a self-inspection and certify that inspection by signing it. So what they'll do is they'll submit their annual license renewal form. They'll pay their license fee. They'll be able to apply, present their self-inspection, and I may be missing one or two other items, but the point is that they don't get the license renewed until we have that inspection. Further, the license does replace the certificate of structural compliance. The current structural certificate is one in which allows us, based off the current code, to a property owner to register all of the units that are registered. We currently have over 3,000 rental units in the city. And all of them have some sort of form of registration process through the certificate of structural compliance. But once that's issued, it's not reissued and reissued and reissued. So we have the need. I think that's where the license actually makes much more sense. Also, we're going to change. We want to make some suggested changes to the code, which you'll see. that allows us the future flexibilities to add additional services for the property owners as well, including providing them access to be able to do background checks on potential tenants. Now, they probably run that process through us, fill out a form either online or in person, and we'll do the checks. We also want to look at the total amount of city services being provided to a potential rental property. We find that there's fire, police, there's our nuisance abatement process where our inspectors go out quite often. We have a lot of services that are provided to those properties that they're not either mowing the lawn, not shoveling, whatever the case might be. Those are all events, and they are basically, and in some cases, taking services away from something else that our current budget dollars are covering. And so we wanted to be able to accumulate how many excessive services that a potential property owner is using. And eventually in the future, we'll be able to know whether that's if they're abusing the services that we have in the city, or whether it's pretty reasonable. Some don't even, have any kind, they're great landlords, and we don't happen to see anything, we never hear from them other than when they renew every 3 years. So that's the other thing. The other thing we want to do is be able to increase our fees for non-compliance and such, and fines. That probably be done through the fee schedule, which is also, it's an addition, an augment. So the point is, I'll iterate, not reiterate, but I'll iterate that the going to a license versus what we currently have allows us to revoke, and those revokes, once done, to reinstate them should make them go through a lot more dog and pony show to get back in good standing. I did some work on the fee schedule just to give you some sense here. The current fee schedule on the left gives you a sense of what we're currently charging. Now, we charge $60 every 3 years, and if we don't hear from anybody, whether it's complaints from tenants or such, or nuisance or anything else, that's all that's all they pay. That's what they do over the course of time. There is some difference in. This is a summary fee schedule. There is some discounting if you have so many units over a certain number that we currently charge. You can get down into the re-inspections and no-shows and things like that to give us some sense of where we stand. I'm proposing, obviously, to make that change, going from a triannual inspection fee of $60 to an annual license fee of $30. And also, the only other adjustment that I'm suggesting is the third inspection, re-inspection. If you keep failing the inspections, a third inspection goes up in price because it takes a lot more out of our schedule to do. So in general, and then of course the citations for catching somebody that didn't register or is non-licensed, I'll be suggesting the fee schedule be increased there as well. You see on there also is the license revocation, reinstatement fee. If you're going to go to license, that probably is an additional line item that we need to add to our fee schedule. It's important that you refer to the footnotes because they are important. The last item is clear that the citations that you see there do not include administrative fees or court costs. Those are always borne by the property owner in those cases.
Dave, are these prices similar to Davenport's prices?
I'm glad you asked. There they are.
Oh,
Next
okay.
page.
Thank you.
I paid her to be my straight guy. What I did was a market area comparison. I also did some work on figuring out comparative communities to Muscatine across the state. Found that we're probably right about in the middle. There are some programmatic changes between different communities, but I thought maybe that the better way to describe it to the city, the public, and as well as the council here, was be to say that in our market, in Iowa City and Davenport, those are within our market. What happens up there, and they make changes, they'll obviously has an effect on Muscatine as well as what happens in Iowa City and those types of things specific to rental housing. I wanted to point out that the Iowa City's number there, as you see, 157, is a one-time fee for the license on the property, but they do charge an annual fee of $33 for the inspections. And the interesting, they have it, you're either self-inspecting or whatnot but the charge is $33 whether they're doing a self-inspection or physical inspection. So it's right in our proposal, it's right in the wheelhouse of that. Davenport charges a little bit more, a little less on the license per unit, but more on the inspections per unit. As well as they charge for the very first re-inspection. If you fail the initial inspection and to do it over again, they actually charge a pretty hefty number there. As you go down the list, you'll see that we're pretty much in line with most of them, except for the fines and fees there for license revocation as well as the citations. This is my plan that I'm kind of proposing, that we phase this in over 3 years. Now, I know that there is, what I want to be clear about is that since we're running our inspections on a 3-year cycle, that as they come due each year, about, if it's 3,000, is about 1,000 or 850 to 1,000 a year that we have to inspect. So as the new one, as the third year comes due this year in 2015, we wanted to be able to convert them to licenses. And then the second year, we'll convert the next 850 to 1,000 licenses. And then of course, third year, we'll be back up to snuff. So that gives you an idea of what I was thinking about. Currently, they pay their inspection fees, and they're good through the next couple of years, and that's what I plan on phasing it in with. Let's see if I can just highlight these things here. Yes, I want to highlight the fact that Section 8 and public housing is still, we want to subject them to the owners of those properties to licenses as well. But we've had a discussion internally. We talked about it's right hand versus left hand paying each other and such on some of the public housing that the city owns. So what we'll do is we probably will waive the internal fees for those so that we don't have license fees, but the inspections still are being done by the housing department. So it's in a case of us, it's just a few $1,000s off from what we would get for those particular units. The other thing that we want to do right off the bat would be once you obtain your license, you've got your inspection done, and everybody's clear, as well as renewals, and I'll go into that in a second. But once we achieve the point of licensing the unit and getting the inspection, we wanted to place it on a web page that allows the public to view what of the rental properties are in fact qualified by way of the, basically we've qualified that that's a valid rental unit within the community. I'm speaking directly to you as a victim of that because I'm in charge of this stuff. In the first 2 or 3 weeks that I was here, I rented a room in a place that wasn't registered. And my code enforcement officer kicked me out. So I'm a victim of my own demise here. So the point is, I've lived this issue in that if I had a place to go look, I would have known that wasn't the case, and I would have been in compliance. Thank goodness I didn't have to pay any fines. But they would have liked to apply that, though. So that's the basic plan. The financial part of this is that I mentioned to you that it's 3,059, it's over 3,000 units in the city. 580 of them currently are exempt from community development inspections for the rental housing program. So that gives us, about 2,500 that we actually do over 3 years. So that averages out about 850 that we actually have to do the inspections on. The plan, as we roll it out over the next 3 years, at $30, not $60, at $30 a year, the first year what we'll do is we're going to bring on the property owners of the Section 8 houses, but not the non-public, not the public housing part as far as licensing. The reason why is because HUD rules allow the city to charge licenses to property owners, but not inspection fees. We cannot do that through the HUD. So in other words, even though the housing department isn't charging for they can't charge basically for the inspections that they perform. And neither can we. So, but we can charge license fees, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do that. I mentioned in the footnotes here that the 200 units that we have, Hershey, Clark, Sunset Park, for example, those are public housing, that those are primarily run by the city, the housing department, and owned by the city. So there's no sense in charging a fee to the city for that. If I was a business, you darn right I'd be charging the city, but no, I can't, in good consciousness. See, the point is that we'd have the 850, and plus you'd have the couple hundred, about 380 units that we'd be able to license the first year, bringing them all on. And then the second year, you add to that another 850, and then you get up to your full number of licenses. This slide gives you a sense of what the cost would be. I kind of outlined for you the circumstances. For example, the very first thing you need to know is that because of we have 2 code enforcement officers. One primarily handles nuisance abatements, and the other one primarily handles health inspections. And I peel off a piece of this guy's time and a peel of that guy's time in order to even keep up with rental housing inspections. But in the process before I got here, we were well behind, and we're roughly running 800 or more inspections behind. So we need to catch up. So we have, equivalently, we've taken through the changing, by managing the time of the current code officers, we are in fact only having about a part-time effect on this. I'm making a request, obviously, in my budget process. Hopefully you can see for at least a part-time, a 29-hour per week additional code enforcement officer to just focus on rental units, and they're cross-trained to at least to the nuisance side. The current, I'll keep the current schedule on the existing code officers in order to at least attack the backlog. The cost associated with a part-time is somewhere in the mid-20s to mid-30s $1,000 per year. Give you some sense of cost.
Can we use a firefighter to do that?
I already asked
You
Jerry.
might have 4.
Well, I already asked Jerry if, and I think you
Oh,
didn't
you
say
did ask
no. There's a possibility, because in other communities, firefighters actually do inspections.
I
So
think they used to do it here.
so that's a thought we'd actually had a brief discussion on, very brief. I think it was just a one sentence. I like how you're thinking, you said. But the bottom line is, before I finish up here, is that I put down on this, you can refer to your handout, the benefits to the property owners. The stake in the ground here is the very first one, and that is this change in what's the state's doing with the tax assessments. So there's room for us to, not get lost in that particular sauce. The rest of it is pretty self-explanatory. I've already kind of covered most of it. And I guess at this point, I'll just leave it open for questions if you have any.
David, on the rental property owner benefits, next to the bottom bold, I'm not sure what you mean by, with the proposed code changes, there's flexibility to facilitate extended cycles.
One of the things that we have learned in other communities was that the rental property owners want to say, hey, if I'm in compliance and I'm not a burden on the city, is there any relief going down the road anyway of being able to change my cycles? I would go 3 years of self-inspection instead of 2 or something like that. Well, we need to evaluate all that, but it sounds like something that we could do in certain circumstances.
Okay,
That's what that means.
thank you.
Council, anyone have questions for Dave? Yes.
So what would be the problem that someone would have their license revoked? Just the fact they didn't pass the inspection? Because I don't remember seeing, maybe you said something, but I didn't.
The
catch it.
criteria?
Yeah.
Criteria
Here's
used
a real
for-
simple one, Phil, and that is that if you go through the license process and you've got inspected and such like that, but a year goes by, you don't renew your license, and you're still renting, you're out of compliance.
Right.
And we'll notice you and say, if you're out of compliance, we'll come up with the proper procedure, and it'll be a legal one. But they will be noticed that they're going to be, the license could be revoked, and the reinstatement fees will be applied, and that kind of thing. That's how I see it. That's a real simple example, but there may be others.
Okay.
Dave, what is a multifamily unit? How large does that have to be?
3 or
I
more.
think the state is defining it as 3, isn't it, or more? Yeah. I think I've heard it 2 definitions. The
3 or
state
more, I think.
state has got one definition, and I think someone else has a different one. But let's say 3 to be safe.
Okay.
3 or more.
Because there's a differentiation between if it's a duplex, it's not commercial, and if it's more than that, it is commercial. And that's where they were paying property taxes. If it was residential, they were paying residential taxes with the rollback and everything, and then the state has changed this, it's actually passed, to change the apartments, multifamily, to residential units, not commercial. Therefore, they reduce their taxes significantly. A lot of people were converting their rentals to condos and calling them condos, and then they are residential units. So that would cease that practice, because now they're all going to be the same.
Well, this will really make a difference in the amount of property tax that you collect.
Yes,
So
it
they'll
will.
be just love the fee increase.
Now's the time to do it. I mean, across the state, cities are kind of waiting to see exactly how this is going to affect property taxes and budgets. And, you know, this is a kind of a big number that's outstanding that we're waiting to quantify and see exactly how this is going to affect us. So it's kind of lingering out there. Seems like an appropriate time to address
So this
inspection programs as well.
Good time to buy a rental property.
I'm sorry?
Would it be a good time to buy a rental property before 2017?
Well, the
Taxes
property
will be
tax,
low.
the legislation's already in place, and the taxes will be going down to 55% over that time period. So they will definitely be paying less in property taxes.
That makes a lot of difference, doesn't it, Phil?
I don't have any rentals.
But you're on that board.
I was.
Aren't you on it anymore?
No. Nope.
Anyone else, council? Very good, thank you, Dave.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, council, it is time for communication from council members. Councilman Raywall, welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing at this time.
Phil
Nothing at this time, Your Honor.
and Scott.
Just welcome to Leadership Muscatine. Always glad to see him here, and I hope
Oh, is that who
there's a
goes
future public servant in that group. So, thank you.
Osama.
I have nothing, thank you.
Bob.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Jeanette.
Nothing, thank you.
Fran.
Nothing, Your Honor, thank you.
And Greg.
I think you've seen in our note, we're going to be launching the city's new website here very shortly. I'll get you an exact date from John. We got it?
January 20th.
January 20th will be our go-live date for the city's new website. I'm excited about it. It's got, it'll look much better on that mobile phone, much more user-friendly, and it's with the same company, of course, that we have been using. A lot of the same great new features. We have a new one, especially new feature, the community forum, or community voice, as it's called, will be on there. It'll allow us to have a discussion forum on the city's website on particular topics. So I'm looking forward to introducing the city's new website.
So do they have to register before they can make a comment? Anonymous?
I'll let you know. No anonymous, absolutely not.
Thank you. I hate to
Thank
get
you, Greg.
beat up and
I have a note here from the Chief of Police that I'd like to read. The Muscatine County Joint Communications Center will be doing a phone system upgrade on Tuesday, January 20th, between 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. The phone system upgrade is needed for the 911 system upgrade. The phone numbers affected are as follows: 263-9922, which is the Muscatine Police Department, 263-6055, which is the Muscatine County Sheriff's Office, and 263-9233, which is the Muscatine Fire Department. They are asking the public to call 911 during this 1 hour time frame for non-emergency calls, okay? And Scott, you mentioned Leadership Muscatine. I would like everyone from Leadership Muscatine to form a line over here, because you're gonna get behind the microphone and introduce yourself,
Yay.
okay?
And you get to be on camera.
And you're gonna be on camera, that is correct.
What'd you learn?
Movie stars.
Yeah.
What'd you learn today?
Thank you all so much for being here tonight, too. I reiterate what Scott had said. It's great to have you folks here in council chambers.
My name is Patrick Walsh. I work at Vision Center PC. I'm the new eye doc there. And one of the things that they had asked us to do was talk about our Leadership Muscatine project. And my project, or what I'm looking into, is possibly putting up some outdoor stationary bikes, maybe overlooking the river, just for some exercise and just to get a good view. So,
Great idea.
very nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Next.
Bill Allen I work at Muscatine Power and Water, and we have a group of 7, I believe. They're not all here tonight, and we're focusing on enhancements to the trail system, such
Great.
as
Great.
either a shelter or a bench, or we've got a number of ideas, possibly an emergency call station. So
Fantastic, thank you.
Tyson Castle, I work for GPC. I'm working with the trail program with them.
Great.
Mike Hansen, I work at Grain Processing Corporation, and I'm a member of the group that is working on the trails as well.
I'm Jimmy Aberd with Monsanto, also part of the Trails group.
All right.
Madam Belcher, GPC. I currently don't have a project, but the trail thing sounds pretty cool.
All right.
Good evening, I'm Steve Everett, Electrical and Instrumentation Specialist at GPC, and I'm on the same line as Adam, working on the trails.
All right.
Samantha Griffin, I work at Stanley Consultants, and my group, which I'm the only one here tonight, is looking into building one of the little free libraries that they have around town.
Super.
Hi, my name is Craig Bunnis. I'm with Muscatine Power and Water. I'm hoping to work with the Musser Art Center a little bit to try to make some of their collection that's not available for viewing publicly to be available online, and then do some enhancements on their website as well.
Great. Fantastic.
My name's Jean Brewster. I'm with Muscatine Power and Water. My idea for a project is it's actually related to what was talked about tonight, but it's not just for rental properties. It's an idea of a front porch improvement program, some kind of grants that would encourage people to fix up some of the dilapidated houses kind of near the downtown area.
Great idea.
My name's Allison Coffey. I'm in marketing at the Hahn Company, and I will be working with MCSA on their social media strategy, helping them to kind of broaden their likes and raise awareness about their services, as well as hopefully gain some donations.
Super.
And I'm Chuck Bleckel. I work for the Kent Nutrition Group, and I am working with another team member who's not here tonight, with Sam Paul, all at the Agricultural Learning Center, about doing some possible improvements we could do out there. So we're in investigation stage of that at this point.
Fantastic, great. Every one of those ideas is a good one. So again, welcome to Leadership Muscatine. We're happy to have you here tonight. Any other business, council? Is there a motion to adjourn? The meeting is adjourned.
My booster chair.